I'm originally from Germany, and I'm teaching CH22928, Understanding Modern China Through Film. We have a final project, and for this project, students are absolutely free to choose whatever they feel like. So they can do just a traditional paper, they can do an exhibition, but they can also do films, feature films, or documentaries.
My name is Charles Carroll, and I teach SC 5215, which is the practice of visual ethnography. It's a continuation course for the honors students and a graduate level course. And for the honors students, they're usually coming from a prerequisite course, which is Roxana Watterson's course that focuses on theories of visual ethnography.
My name is Associate Professor Ismail Talib. My module is GEK 1049, Introduction to Narrative. It deals with the basics of narrative, what stories are, storytelling, and how you can go about analyzing stories.
My name is Charles Wong. I'm the tutor for SSA 1208, Everyday Life of the Chinese Singaporean. This module is basically a study of the day-to-day living of Chinese Singaporeans in the past and how this has changed over time.
Okay, I'm Edna Lim. The module is called Film Genres, Styles and Styles. Basically, it traces the history and the development of particular genres. The genres that we cover include the Western, martial arts, action cinema, Bollywood films and Hollywood musicals, as well as Hollywood animation and Japanese anime.
My name is Yong San-Shing. I teach Chinese opera in the Department of Chinese Studies. And the name of the course is Everyday Life of Chinese Singaporean, Past and Present. And it's the first time we call a SSA module, the Singapore Study module, was offered in our department.
It came naturally because I think a major challenge to narrative is the fact that narrative can be realized not only linguistically but also visually.
This basic requirement is curiosity. Curious about yourself, curious about your surrounding, and curious about Singapore. Okay, for this assignment, it's talking about yourself. When I designed the course, I asked the question, how I narrate a story about Chinese Singaporean in Singapore. It was how the basic concept, how I designed the course.
I think that the potential for film has not been properly mined, and there's still a lot more that could be done with it. It could be used much more as a pedagogical tool. It could also be used much more as a way of allowing students to apply knowledge that they've learned, issues that they've discussed. That's one of the reasons why I included filmmaking as part of as an assessment component.
I try and bring film into every course that I teach, whether it's still photography or whether it's video making. And so I use film in my religion course, and I have the students do a project with still photography. And I also use videos in my Peoples and Cultures of Southeast Asia course. And this summer I'll be taking a group of students to Laos to learn visual anthropology, and we'll be using some of the big cameras here to go off and do some shooting in Laos.
Well, we actually asked the student to conduct their research on a certain site that they're interested in. It could be the Singapore River or even Chinatown, a site that was part of our Singapore heritage.
I try to hijack every one of the courses that I teach and drag the students kicking and screaming into video or still photography. It's a fundamental aspect of my research methodologies. I use it for all of the research that I do. I try and record as much as possible on video, and I try and encourage students to start thinking of these techniques when they're doing their own research and theoretical.
Because it helps the student to actually get away from their usual research methods, and students actually have a lot of creative energy, and they need to have an outlet for that. And we thought film is a perfect vehicle for this creative outlet.
This is a terrific way for students to express their ideas, express their creativity in ways that they normally cannot do in other modules.
Okay, first of all, we do look at the content, and because the content will actually demonstrate how much research effort has been put in by the student. But since it is still a film, right, it's a piece of artwork, we do value creativity. And I'm glad to say that most of the students do demonstrate a pretty high level of creativity.
I try to focus on process rather than product. Now, in the end product, I can actually see the process that students have gone through. I can see whether if they paid attention to the lessons that I gave on composition, if they've pulled in ideas from the books that I've asked them to read on editing. So in the final product, I can see the process that students have gone through.
It is really an experiment in narrative form. There are some other video projects which are more documentary-like. This one is, I think, fictional or semi-fictional. And some of them deal with interviews, really, with people, with personages involved with narrative. So, as I've said, it's an open question. But basically, if it is thorough enough within the time span given, let us say, it should not exceed 5 or 6 minutes, and if it is well done, well produced, well acted sometimes, in relation especially to this one, I think we give higher marks for the project.
There's some level of creativity is involved, and they have to sort of flex their creative muscles here. But at the same time, they also have to pursue an argument or an issue or a concept. And this has to be coherent, it has to be sound, it has to be followed through in the film, it has to be apparent. Sometimes it's not. And they have to match it with a report where they rationalize their creative decisions. So I found that it is a very useful.
A film consists of sophisticated camera works. You can play a lot with camera angles, camera distances. Sound is a very important part of the entire puzzle. And then the post-production. You can do a lot of good things with editing. So these are the kinds of things that I want to see when I get a filmmaking project at the end of the semester.
The future of video, I can't even predict it. But there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff, I think, happening in three-dimensional work. I think storage is going to increase in some interesting ways so that people will be able to do even more complex graphics and be able to store and archive even more. The difficulty right now with doing video work is archiving. That where do we keep this and how are we going to access it in the future? And so we all essentially become archivists as soon as we pick up a video camera and start playing with it. Because we have to think, okay, I'm shooting this video today. In 10 years from now, how am I going to still be able to access that as technology changes? So it's a real challenge.
Well, just look at our daily environment. Wherever we go, films are moving images are just such an important part of our environment. We see them everywhere. We have them in the subway. We have them on our cell phones. We have them on our computers. So they accompany us wherever we go. And at the same time, digital technology now has it made so much easier for us to produce our own films. This would have been impossible something like 10 or 15 years ago. But now we can do it, and it becomes also more important for students to learn how to do this. This is a real asset that you have in your hand if you've once done something like that.
Well, I guess because film is no longer just an event that you go to the cinema, it's become a part of our daily lives, because with social networking and YouTube and all that. Film is being used more and more. We make more and more films from our iPhones and other smartphones. So it's an interesting platform, pedagogically as well as as a field of study. So
now we're saying film a lot here. I like to use the word video because we've moved from actually the celluloid, we've moved to video, and it's becoming increasingly easy to use, and it's available. It's like ubiquitous in our lives. We've got it on our mobile phones. Everybody is able to access it through the technology that we just have in our homes and in our pockets. So it's the ubiquity of it that's making it, and the ease of use. It's getting a lot less expensive and a lot easier to use with the passage of time. So I think more and more people are coming to it and using it.
I think it's important to sometimes let go, all right, and let the students be in charge of what they're doing, because ultimately this is their project, and by giving them a freer hand, I think this allows them to turn out results that are beyond our expectation. Actually,
I think what is happening today, which wasn't the case when I started teaching, 2 decades ago, is basically you can make films with very basic equipment, like for example using handphones, using rather cheap video cameras. And previously I think it's something that is done quite expensively, and students need to borrow equipment from the faculty in order to make videos. But that is no longer the case today.
I found that it is a very interesting medium of expression for the students. Issues that come up, topics that they discuss are often very intriguing. It gives us an insight into what students are thinking about, what they're feeling. Also, the way that they explore particular topics, particular issues are very interesting. Their approach to it, the way they see it, So I found that it was very enlightening, and therefore I've kept it as a consistent component in not one but 2 of my modules.
I learned how to supervise the student is not that easy, okay? Because the student, sometimes the most challenging, the challenge I was facing is aesthetic and intellectual. Okay, some of the students, if they are very talented, they can produce very beautiful and well crafted with all the editing, background music, all the lighting, stuff like that. But I tell my students, it's not only for aesthetics, for this framing. It's also, through this framing, you learn about Singapore history, the past and present, and about yourself. You need to have an intellectual reflection. Okay, it's not to frame. It's not a sort of documentary film. It's not right. It's not personal framing. Okay, but it's a kind of you need to have an intellectual depth. As I mentioned yesterday in the lecture, you need to, when you decide the oral history question, you need to have a so-called research question. You need to solve some problem. You are addressing some issue about yourself, about your family, and about Singapore. And how this issue is translated into the framing is the most challenging part for the student and also for my supervision process.
For my students, I've been working with young people learning video camera for 29 years now. So over the years, we started out with tube cameras, massive tube cameras, and shooting on 3/4 inch tape. We've come now to using these cameras that record on SD cards or on the compact flash cards. Huge transformations in technology, which enable us to really increase what someone can do with the technology. That has helped me understand that if you don't set limits in your assignments, you can have students really excel beyond what you could even expect, what you could possibly predict. So I think the main thing I've learned is not to set limits with my expectations, and to facilitate, get them rolling on something, and seeing where they can take it. And their students are constantly surprised.
I'm learning a lot from these films. For me, this is also a kind of feedback on the class itself. I can learn from them how they see China, because this is what the class is about. And I can see how they use the medium of film in expressing their own views, in expressing their ideas, what they think about, what they want to say. This is, for me, the thing that I'm curious about.